Grief is very different and just unique from one person or the other. Just because you're able to, handle loss and quickly move on doesn't mean everybody needs to do the same. And secondly, doesn't mean that should be the standard. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Naomi's All Inclusive World, where today I'm going to look at grief, what it is, and just how diverse or not standard it is. Now, grief can be defined as just that deep sorrow someone experiences on loss of someone that probably meant something to them. People grieve for loss of, a family member, for loss of a very dear friend. Some people actually grieve for loss of their pets, for loss of their, their animal that meant, the world to them, and so on. Some people that I actually have come across also grieve over loss of a dear item to that they really held in high esteem, or that really just meant a lot to them. Others grieve, loss of opportunities, loss of chances, loss of, just loss of a job, loss of an opportunity, and so on. But in most cases, and in the case of this interview, I'll be looking at grief that comes from loss of or death of someone. Now, people are different, and so is the way we handle things such as loss and grief. Now, there are people who are able to quickly move on after they lose someone, where someone here could be their family member, their friend, their colleague, their one-time neighbor, and so on. And we have people who take a while before they do that, and we have some people who just never get over it. So just because you are in one caliber of these three doesn't make the other two wrong. And number two, don't expect everybody to grieve like you. Now, some people actually, while going through grief, will be affected very emotionally, whereby just something so small triggers their emotions and they become very easily weepy. They become they become withdrawn and so on. So that can be an emotional effect. Some people actually get physically affected, whereby you realize someone actually loses weight. Someone, so they physically look like they have lost weight. Some people, just probably they develop a skin condition. You realize someone once had a very smooth skin or face, now they have rashes and so on. It's like you physically can see that something is working or weighing them down, and so on. Others actually just probably, grieve, like even religiously. You'll realize that some people will actually spend longer durations in their places of worship than they used to be, whether it's a mosque, whether it's a church, or whether it's they just kind of like want to spend more time there, or they spend more time in their sanctuary, on their prayer room, and so on. It's just their way of grieving. So don't expect that your way should be the standard or your way should be the right one. Everybody just handles loss differently. So let everybody grieve their own way. Now, one of the other things I was just reading through and found a bit interesting is generally someone would take probably a whole cycle before they start to kind of celebrate or turn the memories of the person they lost into just now memories, really, and not like sad ones now. You realize like someone will go through a whole cycle here, meaning you will go through a whole year and you'll celebrate their birthday without them, if it was, say, your child or your spouse or your mom or something like that. You will go through, if it's a partner, if it's your partner, you'll go through their birthday without them. You'll go through, you say, your marriage, your anniversary, marriage anniversary without them, and so on. So there's just the whole thing without them kind of forms a cycle. And most people will now start healing after that whole cycle. Then that's fine. That is their way of grieving. Leave them alone. Others, after, say, burying their loved ones and, waking up to a new day, it's like they move on. That's just how it is. It doesn't mean they loved that person less, or it doesn't mean that person was not good enough or so on. It's just how we are as human beings. We grieve differently, we hold on to the loss differently, and then we let go when we are ready. Now, another thing that I need to mention is you can never hurry grief. You can never hurry your heart to grieve and get over, the loss very quickly. It has to just go at its own pace. And actually, there have been cases where, when you really have to move on the loss and, continue with the usual life, if it's working life, if it's family life, and so on, and your heart really never grieved the loss of a person, it has a way of just bouncing back. And it can take as long as it will. You actually have to grieve your person for you to move on. And I just also need to mention that during that grieving season, that doesn't make that person any less. That doesn't make that person a disabled person just because they are easily emotional, just because they have lost weight and so on. No, grief is just grief, and it's very personal. And it's not a disability. It's just a phase of life, and that's just how we handle loss. Let's leave people grieve when people who mean a lot or who mean the world to them actually depart. And life will go on after we have grieved the people, and after now we are ready to move on. But before then, don't hurry me to grieve the loss of my friend, the loss of my parent, the loss of my colleague, and so on. Let me just do it at my own pace. I'm still normal, I'm still human, I'm still, with feelings and so on, and grief is normal. So yeah, I thought I needed to mention that. Thank you very much. I hope this helps someone to just understand that, that person who seems to be taking long in moving on, or that person who seems to be really emotional every time they see a color that was a favorite to their person, that particular song, and they break down and they get emotional and so on. That is just part of the journey. That grieving is such a journey, and let's just understand that. So I hope this helps someone. Click the subscribe button if you haven't, and remember to put the notification button on so that every time I throw in any awareness or any sensitization video, you'll be the first one to know. And let's just continue spreading this gospel of information and the right information out